Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Continuing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Divinity and Divine Service. We're on Text 5, 1.2.5. The last time we read about the invocation to Bhagavatam, taking shelter of the devotees, Mother Saraswati, the Lord, before approaching Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest. Now, the context here is Suta Goswami has been questioned by the sages at Naimisharanya. The sages at Naimisharanya, they realize that Krishna has left, and they want to know, among other things, where Dharma, religion, spiritual practice, specifically like human Dharma, what should be done, where all that is to be understood, because Krishna himself is not on the planet. He's the repository of all that. Where is it gone now that he's not there? They ask a variety of other questions. The first chapter is really questions. And the questions are all relating to higher topics, the highest topics. And Suta Goswami is replying now. This is his reply. Munya sadhu prishtoham bhavatbhirlokamangalam yadkritah Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Since it has been stated here and before that in the Bhagavatam the absolute truth is to be known, the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya are proper and just, because they pertain to Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Personality of Godhead says that in all the Vedas there is nothing but the urge for searching after him, Lord Krishna. Thus the questions that pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all the Vedic inquiries. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers, and in the evening also the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers, and so also the lawyers in the court, and the students in the schools and colleges, the legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers. And the politicians and the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father, or son, an object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things, but Krishna, give temporary satisfaction only. So if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers, because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna. We can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai.
Jai.
Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnana Shlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jai Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Bihari. Questions and answers. So this is an expression. Ask a stupid question, get a stupid answer. The quality of your answers depends on the questions you ask. And Prabhupada is really speaking at length here in this purport about how there are countless topics, and everybody is always engaged in discussing, whether they have a voice capable of human speech and subtleties thereof or not. They're always engaged. Birds are asking, where is food? You know, rabbits are asking, where is my predator? Where is my mate? Where is my food? Where is safety? Where is sleep? Like that. There's always some kind of process, gathering information, inquiring, and sharing. And the human being is just like all the animals and plants doing that. However, the human being can engage in asking about their source. And that is a very special privilege. So we can see the beginnings of this when the human being begins to ask philosophical questions, when they start, maybe at least temporarily, stop asking, what's on TV? How did the Red Sox do? Who ran away with whose wife in the soap opera? What's the latest gossip? What did you cook it for dinner? And they ask, Mom, where do people go when they die? Or where did I come from? Who am I? Sanatana Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, although so wise, so learned in all the Vedas, and a very sincere devotee, he embraced Vaishnav humility when he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said to him, Ke ami? Who am I? Why do I suffer over and over again these threefold miseries? Everybody says I'm so intelligent, and I'm such a fool that I believe them. Please tell me who I am and why I must go through this. And Mahaprabhu says to him with infinite compassion, you remember the Bengali, Jiver Swarupahoy Krishnera Nitadas. The eternal Swarup, the real nature of all jivas, that they're eternal servants of Krishna. And he describes in that chapter, you're suffering because of your own illusion. Actually, he submits that Sanatana Goswami is beyond such questions, but for all of us, he answers that we're suffering because of our forgetfulness, that we're connected to higher source. Prabhupada says in the purport, forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. That's actually the whole material thing, is creating so many objects and engaging our attention in them and our capacity to ask questions and answers. The capacity to ask questions and answers, like it may seem absurd almost that Srila Prabhupada uses questions and answers, that term, like a dozen times in the purport, but it's not. It's actually very deliberately chosen because the capacity to question and receive answers is not given to all forms of life. The fact that we can ask those questions and others can't is actually not, as the materialists would have you believe, happenstance, an evolutionary fluke, a universal accident. No, it's design. It's a privilege. Prabhupada, there's a nice book called Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, wherein it delineates a conversation between one gentleman whose name at the time I don't remember, but was later initiated. I've met him. His name is Brahmatirtha. Became a disciple. At the time, he was an inquisitive young man who met Srila Prabhupada in, I think, Mayapur, somewhere in India. And he recognized Srila Prabhupada's stature. And for some time, maybe a couple of days, he visited Srila Prabhupada and sat and asked him questions. And Srila Prabhupada answered. But his questions were very good. His questions weren't about all the millions of things that could be substituted for Krishna. He was asking about higher truth. Who am I? Why do I suffer? What is death? What is life? Is there higher power? How do I approach higher power? Why do I think I'm my body? What is this world? Is it real? Who are other people? And that conversation was saved and it became a book. And it's called Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers because the questions were sincere. Brahmatirtha Prabhu, the future Brahmatirtha Prabhu, did not have the answers. But instead of pretending he did, or instead of ignoring the necessity of asking the questions, instead of replacing the subject matter with some distraction, a tendency that we've become remarkably good at in this age, where it's incredible how good we are at creating distractions for ourselves. Instead of doing that, that jiva in that moment chose to ask them. Fortunately for him, he was in the presence of somebody who can give him answers. Obviously, the backstory is that he'd been asking those questions for some time, and he'd been looking. And Krishna, in his infinite compassion, put him in touch with Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada answered them. And because the devotees were trained in the Sankirtan science, they were always recording what Srila Prabhupada said, and it became a book. So then we can all reflect on that conversation. Now, the Bhagavatam is actually not different. The Bhagavatam is actually perfect questions, perfect answers. Because Parikshit is cursed to die in 7 days, but he's a great devotee. He knows that Krishna is real, and he knows that Krishna is important. And he doesn't have all the detail around that, but he knows that there's some way in which, okay, my time is limited. Actually, as Prabhupada points out, Parikshit was cursed to die. He had 7 days to live, but all of us have 7 days to live. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You're going to die on one of those days. The difference is Parikshit knew which day it was. We may not even make it out through the week. We may die in less than 7 days. We don't know. There is no guarantee. So our existential condition is essentially the same. But Parikshit saw the writing on the wall and embraced that. And he had this deep clarity. Just like if you have one night to study for a test and you've really, really been procrastinating all semester. Anybody ever do that?
No.
I was really good at that. I would ignore material all semester. And then I would stay up all night asking myself, why do I do this? In complete anxiety, studying to the last moment. And I would get like decent marks. Not as good as if I'd actually studied all semester and paid attention. Please don't do this. I don't recommend it. But Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't do that. He had actually cultivated a spiritual practice his whole life. But now he saw, okay, that's it. Wife, children, money, opulence, kingdom. He was the king. Done with that. Done. Now I want to know, what should I focus on? And he sat there and he decided to fast till death. He had, if you fast, you're going to die in about 7 days. So he's like, I don't even have time to eat. I'm not into that. What's the point? Body's going to get taken away like that anyway. I know it is. He's got a timer. He's got a little timer. He's like, seconds are ticking down. And he's sitting there, and who appears? Shukadeva Goswami. And they have a conversation. Actually, so many sages came to see this great king, the greatest. It's like if Donald Trump, decides, you know what? I'm done with this whole power thing. I'm done with accumulating and doling out power. I'm done with it. I want to know what higher power is. And he decides to fast on the banks of the Potomac. How much of a big deal that would be? It was a bigger deal. Parikshit. All the sages came. Narada Muni came. Vyasadeva came. His own Parikshit. And then so many Gyanis and Bhaktas came. Wow, what is this? Who's going to speak? And they decided amongst themselves, who is qualified to answer his questions? And Shukadeva Goswami came and they said, no, him. He's actually a pure devotee. He should speak. And then, so the Bhagavatam is their conversation. But within it is another conversation. The sages of Naimisharanya are gathering and they're thinking, we need to do good for everybody because Krishna has just left. This is going to get very dark very soon. They knew Kali Yuga is coming. They knew this is the age of distraction, quarrel, hypocrisy, short lives, medium to less intelligence. They knew were going to be struck with that situation, and they wanted to do good for us, and they also knew for themselves they had to have answers. So they want to ask questions, and they elect Sutta Goswami. So there's questions and answers there. And based on what they say, we're hearing the historical questions and answers of Vidura and Maitreya, Uddhava and Krishna. So many questions and answers. This is the entire composition of Bhagavatam. It's conversations, just like the Bhagavad Gita, questions and answers. Arjuna is recognizing, I can't do this. This is going to be disastrous for me. The way it's going, I can't even enjoy life. No matter if I win or lose, it's just like ashes for me. I need to know, what's the deal, Krishna? Right? That's basically what he says in 2.7. I don't know what's going on. I'm struck down with complete weakness, and even my composure is lost. What's the deal, Krishna? And then the whole Bhagavad Gita is Krishna explaining what the deal is, and Arjuna refining the questions and back and forth. And we can do that. The bunnies and puppies can't. So the fact that some living entities choose to do it is actually miraculous and great. And if some humans choose not to, it's actually a great loss. So Bhagavatam is questions and answers around that highest topic. Not even who am I and what is life and death, very important. But from that, once we've established I'm a spiritual being, part and parcel of the source, that's what Bhagavad Gita does. Bhagavad Gita establishes that for us. It's essential sambandha. There's you and all other living entities that you can see, all the conscious beings. There's unconscious inanimate matter, two separate categories. There's time, there's your karma, and there's source, higher power. And here is some fundamental knowledge on each 5 of those categories, spoken by the source himself. Now, once that's been established, then it's like, okay, I want more. Bhagavad Gita is a preliminary study. It's the ABCs. It never stops being relevant. You never stop using your ABCs. Just like you compose a sentence, you don't even think about the words you're using. You don't even think about the pronunciation. Think about that word pronunciation. The first time you tried to make that word happen, what did it sound like? They probably looked at it, you're like, pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's automatic because you have your ABCs down. You know how they combine. That's Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavatam is actually more detailed about Krishna, his incarnations, what they did, what they're continuing to do. His supreme form is Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan, the pastimes of love and attraction between him and his devotees. And that's the supreme topic. So this is what the most wise people are asking questions and answers around. They're not even asking questions and answers around life and death, although that's a good way to get into it. They're asking ultimately about Krishna. That's what they do. When we see Mahaprabhu's associates, we see pure devotees, we see Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, we see the gopis, we see advanced rishis and sages, we see Shukadeva and Parikshit. They relish hearing about Krishna in all of his forms and all the ways that the devotees have related to him. That's actually where all the great satisfaction is, and all the different stories of this epic and that movie series and this television show and that book and this soap opera and this sports broadcast, they're all just reflections of the drama of the spiritual play between Krishna and his parts and parcels in the spiritual world. That's why these things exist, because relationship is real. Drama is real. Ups and downs, story arcs, heroes, triumphs, villains, all these things are real. Krishna is interacting in this way over and over again, eternally. But when he does it, it's perfect and it's spiritual. And hearing about it is actually fully satisfying to the heart. Therefore, Bhagavatam is actually not dry. It's not instructive. You should surrender to God. Yes, it's that also, but it's actually containing the essence of what we're looking for when we engage in all of our distractions anyway. The pastimes of Krishna are very sweet, and the devotees want to hear about them over and over again. And all the preliminary knowledge we need, including you're not your body, you're suffering because of illusion. You're actually part of Krishna. You need to remember him daily. All this is also contained in the Bhagavatam. So the beginning student can get benefit by becoming situated, recognizing what's what, and remembering that daily. And the advancing student can take benefit too by advancing student means they already know that. They know they're not their body. The great sages know they're not their bodies. All the Gyanis know that. But what to do about that? Okay, I'm Brahman. I'm eternal. I am conscious. I am an eternal spiritual being. What are the activities of Brahman? What does Brahman do? The answer is what we see here. Brahman engages in hearing about, chanting about, glorifying, remembering, loving, worshiping the Supreme Brahman. That's what Brahman does in their purified state. And then they're accepted in the service of that Supreme Brahman and engage eternally in that way. And whether they're perfect and they're descending here out of mercy, like the associates of Lord Chaitanya, they're eternal associates of Krishna. Then they'll hear and chant. Or they're on their way up. And all of us are becoming perfected. And we're working and we're letting go of things that aren't serving us. We're coming closer to Krishna. Then we're also hearing and chanting. Because that relationship with Krishna is being formed through it. And hearing about the living relationship of Krishna with his associates in Gaur Lila, his associates in Krishna Lila, his associates in Ram Lila, his associates in Bhagavatam, that rasa, that flavor of relationship gives us a concrete goal because we need that. We need engagement. We're made for it. We're not just made for philosophy. We're made for love. We're made for connection. And Bhagavatam is all about that. And it shows you, it talks about that and also shows you that so you can experience it. Therefore, there's this, so much is made of questions and answers. There has to be real engagement for the mind and for the heart. And therefore, Prabhupada says one should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam, make an all-around solution to all problems. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. And along the way, side benefit, Bhagavatam, because it's like a who's who of situations the human being can go through, because it's exhaustive, it deals with every psychological change and state the human being can go through. Confusion, lust, anger, joy, despair, everything. Everything's in the Bhagavatam. Social situations are in the Bhagavatam. Religious situations are in the Bhagavatam. Interpersonal conflict is in the Bhagavatam. So you read Bhagavatam, because it's carefully picked, you get supreme spiritual benefit. You also get tremendously practical wisdom for the world as a side benefit. Therefore, Prabhupada says, read Bhagavatam, make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Because while we're aiming at developing our relationship for Krishna, we have all this drama. Anybody have drama over the holidays? Anybody go back to family and recognize, oh wow, there's stuff there.
Yep.
Yeah, not just me. It's life. There's always something. Everyone's body give them trouble when they ate their third giant meal of the day. They have to deal with that. Yeah, it's like there's always something in this world. So it's not the end of the world. It's not the most important thing. I'm not gonna get on Vyasa on here and talk about that as a topic of the class, but it's part of, got to deal with the body, got to deal with social, political situations, got to deal with all that. And Bhagavatam gives you the ways to do that while keeping Krishna in the center, because people have had to deal with these things forever. They've been dealing with a body that's falling apart around them forever, literally. That's just eternal truth. They've been dealing with family drama forever. They've been dealing with their own mortality forever. And how do they do it when they put Krishna in the middle? That's really worth hearing about, right? That's really where the wisdom comes in. Like Parikshit, he's going to die. Everyone's going to die. Or has already died. But Parikshit is doing that in the context of Krishna. That's why Bhagavatam decides it's worth us hearing. Right? What happens when you have family drama with Krishna in the middle? What happens? All these things that we go through. What does it look like to put Krishna in the middle? That's Bhagavatam. Om Tat Sat. Perfect questions, perfect answers. So we talked about Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, the book with Brahmatirtha Prabhu and Srila Prabhupada. We talked about our capacity for asking questions. We talked about approaching perfect questions and receiving perfect answers, that the supreme inquiring and receiving has to do with the Supreme Person. And we approach that by inquiring about our mortality. truth, absolute truth, truth beyond culture, truth beyond temporality. And we see that even children can do that. Unfortunately, much of the time they're silenced or distracted. Like if you don't have an answer or you don't know what to say, then you just distract the child, and it doesn't deal with the problem. Doesn't deal with the searching. They'll just keep searching. Prabhupada talks about, we talked about this searching in so many things, creating so many objects of questions and answers that don't satisfy. We talked about the supreme satisfaction that comes from engaging in hearing and chanting about Krishna and questions and answers around him. And that along the way, our temporary situations are also remedied by hearing about how devotees in their temporary situations put Krishna in the middle and what it did for them. Hare Krishna. Let's take any questions and answers, comments and reflections. Even our Bhagavatam classes are arranged in this way. That's why I actually abhor, not abhor, it's a strong word, but I really don't appreciate a class where someone talks at you and there is no time or space for reflection. That is not our mood. That is not the Bhagavatam. That's not Bhagavad Gita. That's not Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ended his classes. He was like, do you have any questions? In fact, he would say, if you don't have any questions, are you even thinking critically about what you're receiving? The questions or like reflections, at least, like, what did you hear? Because that's the whole thing. It's like, I'm not here as the deliverer of absolute truth, and you're all like, non-sentient beings. You're all receiving that. You all have something to reflect back, and I get to benefit. We all get to benefit from it. It's the same thing that all these conversations are built on. It's back and forth. It becomes very dynamic. I just recognized right now, as I asked for reflections, that that's the same thing I've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It takes two. This conscious living entity facing another one, reflecting back and forth about Krishna, makes it sweeter. Ready, set, go.
You spoke about how we're suffering, excuse me, because of our forgetfulness that we're connected to higher source.
Mm.
And I was thinking about how, well, grieving is another form of suffering, right? But the reason that we have, from a spiritual perspective, the reason that we grieve is because we're ultimately grieving that the loss of that relationship, that eternal relationship with Krishna. And so we have these smaller circumstances, seemingly smaller circumstances in our life that we experience loss and loss and loss and loss, so that we can remember. So I was reflecting on that. And if we don't ask like quality questions, like if a question is, why is this happening to me? Right? Or why does this happen again and again and again? Or why me? The question isn't like your guru, by Shishkadath Prabhu, wrote a book called The Four Questions, right? Like 4 questions that are quality, higher vibrational questions to ask every day. What is my purpose? What is my service? What is the lesson? Where am I investing my attention? So like those types of questions, or even when we experience suffering, experience loss, it's not why me, but what is the lesson here? What do I need to get through this? What support do I need? What tools do I have? But also, what is there for me to learn?
Yeah. And we see that in Bhagavatam, like Canto 6. Will you give me Canto 6?
Yeah.
So in the 6th canto, I mentioned earlier that Bhagavatam contains encyclopedic knowledge about all the different experiences the living entity can go through. Chapter 16 of the 6th canto. 14 through 16. There's a king called Chitraketu. And Chitraketu was on top of the world. He had everything. He had great kingdom. He had many wives. This is back when it was possible for a man to be qualified to give shelter to more than one woman. He had many wives. He had one thing he was looking for. He didn't have. He didn't have a son. Didn't have an heir. And for a king, that's a problem. But for a man or woman, that can also be a problem. He was very invested in getting that. And so he had the association of Narada and Angira rishis, and they came and asked him, how goes it ruling the kingdom? And he said, everything's good. I'm very satisfied in the prosecution of my dharma. However, and he told them about his dissatisfaction, and they could tell he was very attached to getting this. And Narada Muni looked at him with compassion and said, you can have a child, but it's going to be the source of your joy and also the source of your lamentation. And Chitraketu said, I don't care. I just want it. That sounds good to me. Give me that. And this was his karma. You couldn't avoid that. And as it turns out, one of his wives becomes pregnant, and he's jubilant. She's jubilant, and all the other co-wives are kind of neglected. And then they give birth. She gives birth. He's a father now, and now there's a child, and there's so much joy. The whole kingdom comes alive, and everybody is happy except for the wives. Co-wives don't have children because now they're like jealous. They consider themselves insignificant, and so they actually conspire. And in a moment of insanity, they decide to kill the child, poison it, and they murder it. And there's a description. He comes into the child's room to see him, and he's dead, his own infant that he's tried so hard for. And his grief is so powerful that he's not able to stay conscious. And when he passes out, he comes back to consciousness, then remembers what he's experiencing. It's again so powerful. He passes out. He was so attached to that child. His grief is even reading about it is painful. The level of suffering this living entity went through. And Narada Muni and so that's going on. Narada Muni and Angira came after, and they came after because they knew he had to go through that. He was not able to receive anything before. He had to experience some loss. And then, because Chitraketu was a very wise gentleman, he wanted to advance spiritually. But at the time, the first time they came, he was just stuck. It's like tunnel vision. I want a son, any price. And the price was lamentation, loss. Which, by the way, is the price always, whether it's right away or later. And now he's got a teachable moment, and he turns to Narada, and he receives instruction. He receives higher context. Why did they have to die? Who are they? What is this? And one thing that happens is, on the course of the conversation, Narada and Angira bring the soul back into the body of the child. And there's a conversation between the parents and their own past son who's left the body now. And they recognize, as the child says, I dwelled within the body as long as was my allotment. I've had so many mothers and fathers. You were mine for some time, and I was your son. I've moved on. There was some greater context that they couldn't possibly understand or accept from their own grieving position. And so it's the devotee, Narada and Angira, it's the devotees who provided this context. Not just that you're not your body, you're passing through. That's true. It's important. It's necessary. It's ABCs. And Chitraketu became a great devotee of Sankarsana. He became actually qualified within a short period of time to have the darshan of the Lord face to face. Became a perfect devotee. His chapter 15 and 16 deal with that. 14 is the backstory. And that's what the devotees do, because they have Krishna. The Gyanis can't do that because they don't have Krishna. They only have transcendental knowledge. It's good. You're not your body. Yeah, the Gyanis can give you that. The Gyanis can free you from the lamentation of the material duality, but they can't give you Krishna. So you're stuck at that liminal stage, not your body, but you don't know what to do. What is the activities of Brahman? Only the devotees can give that, because the devotees are living. Yeah. So there, you said grief, so I remembered grief. Mm-hmm. That's grief. Canto 6, chapter 14 to 16. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's a level of grief none of us are ever going to experience. It's like supreme grief, practically. It's like world record Guinness Book grief, but it also happens to be Krishna conscious because of the devotees. So it's worth commemorating.
Jai, thank you.
Jai. More reflections or comments, questions?
It's interesting that I feel like I'm in this place of, I don't want to say it identity crisis, but in a place of where I don't know how or what I'm meant to do, but I know that what I'm doing in right now as like my career and work, it doesn't feel right. And it's everything that I've dedicated my time to the last like 17 years, and I don't know. I'm trying to intellectualize like, well, you've done all this work and you have all this knowledge, but now you see more clearly because I've been given this gift of understanding from a spiritual perspective. And I just keep praying, like, how am I best? What am I meant to do to serve? How do I serve you the best? What is it that you need me to do? I will do anything, just let me know. And I just feel like I'm like treading water and I'm just waiting and waiting. And that question is like, who am I? I know that I'm a spirit soul. I
Right.
understand that but I feel like I'm just,
What is my service?
what is my service?
Yeah. And that's a great question to have. That's a great question to have. In fact, in one place, Srila Prabhupada says that's basically the best question you can ask your guru when you see them. How can I be of service to you? And that's that approach. I mean, that's what Brahmatirtha Prabhu came to after he recognized that he was in the company of in the association of a pure devotee. He became a disciple, became service. Brahmatirtha Prabhu now his service is he serves in the Bhaktivedanta Institute, the intellectual kind of institute of dealing with presenting bhakti philosophy in an academic context for intellectuals and what have you. Quite a learned gentleman. It wasn't his nature. And so that's a natural fit for him. My experience with this question of what is my service, because it has to do with what am I good at, what will help others, what is pleasing to Krishna, what is necessary, like where is there a gap? And we may have a lack of clarity on any or all of those things. And we kind of want an intersection between all of them. Right. And then so my experience is it becomes clear as you develop in your relationship with the Holy Name. It becomes clear what you like to do, when you feel satisfied in bhakti, and how you can bring your practical material skill set to bhakti, which is kind of what you're asking, because we need to apply our material skill sets. Because we have an attachment to the material body. If we didn't have an attachment to the material body, we wouldn't need to do any of that. We could just hear and chant, or we could do anything. Literally anything wouldn't be the same. A very advanced devotee can take out the trash or give class, and it's no difference for them. They can sweep up the floor, cook a meal, write a book, go on a preaching tour. It's no difference for them. It's all for Krishna. Until then, we have some attachment. The more attached you are, the more conditional your service is. And so developing a relationship with the Holy Name gives clarity from within, and the Sangha of more advanced devotees who are like-minded and care for us gives clarity from without. They position us in service and see what our propensities are, what we're good at, usually before we do, and they engage us in that service, right? Just like tiny example, not even exactly about propensities, but we have this phenomenon of devotees like leading the Nrsimha prayers or this kirtan or that kirtan, and pretty much universally the devotee doesn't think they're qualified till they do it. I remember I felt that way, and that's okay. It's coming from a sweet place, and it's also the more advanced devotees do the whole mama bird thing, push them out of the nest when they see they can fly. It's like yoink. They see you got this. And there's always that. There's always that. Yeah, so some devotees will like try to do too much, and then you kind of like have to rein them in and kind of channel that energy. And some devotees will hold themselves back or not believe in themselves. And there's always this question of like, what kind of service? Like, what am I made for? And I didn't know I enjoyed teaching. I didn't know I liked it. I didn't know I was into receiving and sharing knowledge as my primary service until I'd been chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds a day for um, maybe a year or two, maybe a year. And that's plus a year and a half of getting up to 16 rounds. And I was associating intimately with devotees every day. And it became clear. I started asking, can I give a Bhagavatam class? Is that like allowed? And I remember asking my guru, I wasn't initiated. I was like, there wasn't even on the horizon. I'd taken shelter of him, but I asked him like, Gurudev, I really want to talk about Krishna. Would I be allowed to give a Bhagavatam class? And he said, yeah, you should. You should talk to the temple president. Tell him I said that you can do it.
Mm.
Temple president became a disciple later, Kevala Bhakti Prabhu. And I came to him, Bhakti Sam, with like such little experience, but with the approval of an advanced devotee. Everyone knows my guru is an advanced devotee. I had that relationship of love and trust. And he said to me, okay, try it out, yeah, let's do it, don't try and do too much. And I gave a class and I loved it. That's so much fun. I just quoted so much Shastra, and it was decent. It was a decent class. I didn't, say anything factually incorrect. And I wanted to do more of that. And Krishna sent opportunities. And when I became a brahmachari, like not long afterwards, my guru told the temple president, engage him in giving class and engage him in these kinds of services. And so the temple president, Tushta Krishna Prabhu, said, I want you to organize the morning program. I want you to be the person who organizes, who gives classes. Because it's like, if you really like food, you make a great cook. Mm. If you really like classes, you want to have good classes. Mm. Right? So I was always interested in getting people excited about hearing Bhagavatam and making sure that class I was not okay if 8 o'clock came around and it's Bhagavatam class time and no one is ready or prepared or wants to give class. Like, that's not acceptable to me. Like, he could see, my guru could see that fire, could see that propensity, and he turned it toward Krishna. It would have been just collecting books or encyclopedias or some academic nonsense. It would have manifested. Krishna said to Arjuna, you're going to fight. That's who you are. You're a warrior. But if you don't apply yourself in this service, you'll fight all the same, but it'll be degrading for you. Therefore, you should fight here, right now, for me. So it's internally through chanting, and it's externally through mercy and guidance. And it's already happening for you bit by bit. I can see that.
Yeah.
Like with coming to the Bhakti house and taking care of the plants, that's a very important service. And it may not be the whole sum total of who you are, but it's
like how you make Lakshmi.
Right. But it's something. And
it will support in getting
what you're doing between the hours of 9 and 5 in the day, we also is in the process of being discovered. And also there's the other factor of Prabhupada, when asked or when discussing the phenomenon of what to do to make a living, he said that the devotees are they're what's the word he used? He said somehow or other they make a living. That we're very we're given permission to just somehow or other do it. It's like devotees are very crafty. Yeah. They figure out how to do it in a way that doesn't degrade their consciousness. They find a situation where they can be of service in the world, and it doesn't have to be perfect because it's not going to be perfect. And it's also a situation which doesn't degrade their consciousness past an unacceptable point, so that they're staying in sattvic consciousness, they're staying Krishna conscious, and they can make a difference, right? Like Bhakti Justin is on the call. Bhakti Justin is doing amazing service, working in a college, distributing food. And it's not even like all that food is vegetarian, but I hear about it firsthand from him. And he's helping his coworkers, he's helping the students become Krishna conscious, and he's able to be of service in that and stay Krishna conscious there. And he's created vegetarian options, and he's created options that are prasadam options. And he's found coworkers who are actually interested in offering food because they're from pious backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So, there's different things happening, and that's good enough. That's him spiritualizing a situation. Is it what he's going to do forever? Probably not, but it's definitely good enough right now. And is an example of Krishna acting in a devotee's life. So that kind of thing happens, and then sometimes there's like, yeah, a fundamental change of venue, change of service, and that can happen too. But that like big step up, leaving a job, taking another job, or going to school for something, no, that's a big step, and that's requires um, permission from super soul and guidance and clarity and um, external guidance. Like always ask before changing your job or going to school again. It's a big deal. It's a lot of investment of time and money, but it may be that you'll do that. It may be that you'll just finagle your way into a situation that works for you. Get yourself a living, and then create a space where you can support your hearing and chanting. Either is okay.
Just keep chanting.
Yeah, keep chanting and keep taking guidance. And if you're hearing this and you're young, you're very fortunate because you can save yourself a lot of time and energy.
Yeah,
So
and it's never too late.
never too late.
Mm-mm.
I was 30 whatever years old, 8. I'd been a brahmachari for like 7.5 years, 9 years in the temple, celibate. All my schooling was so far in the past, it was irrelevant practically. What am I going to do with my life? But I had a skill set, and I had Krishna had gave me guidance and support. It was definitely not too late for me. You know. Thank you.
Mm.
Any other reflections from our online crew? We'd love to hear from you.
Mary says she's listening today because she has family there.
Gotcha. Love that.
And I don't know Justin's
Justin, probably the same.
circumstance. Yeah.
Jai. All right, perfect questions, perfect answers. Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Samvita Bhaktivinoda, all glories to the simple devotees. Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha Hare Krishna. All right, enjoy the continuing winter holidays into the new year, and we'll see you, many of you, on Tuesday for a Shastra review. That'll be online and in person. And then we're gonna have devotee sangha, kirtan, prasad, and fun, and etc. More and more
All right, Bull.
into 2025. Hare Krishna.